What's going on, Alex? I appreciate you coming on the Unguarded podcast to kind of, you know, give us some truths and some gems right quick to the athlete community. So appreciate you for joining me for this morning podcast
Appreciate you
call. We
for
we
having me.
both out in Europe.
Appreciate you for having me. For sure.
We gonna jump right into it because we ain't gonna waste no time. I'm already dressed for this, practice that I'm gonna have right after this. um, let's talk about right now. Again, I think one thing I'm learning is relinquishing the identity of a basketball player, but you still got to keep that because that ego is what helps you survive, truthfully, on the court. But when you know you have to give your energy to other things because you about to transition, and if you don't do it, that can basically hurt you big time for what's next.
Yeah.
How did you balance the time when you knew, okay, it's coming to an end and I'm about to have to go into something else? Like, what was that point like? What was that turning point like for you, like emotionally, your ego wise, your identity wise?
Yeah.
Talk about that transition part, like, but when you were kind of in it still, playing, but know it's coming to an end.
Yeah. I think you can go at it so many ways, but for me personally, I think it's one of those things where athletes are programmed to having discipline and to having a structure from a day to day standpoint of what they're doing, whether it's going to practice, like you said, what you're about to do, getting prepared for that. You know what's ahead, and the entrepreneurship is uncharted territory where you really don't know what's ahead, and it's scary at times. And for me, to sum it all up, it was one of those things that it had to be what you said, relinquishing power, and actually trusting individuals to come in and see the vision of what you're trying to do and make it a whole. And I think that is something that athletes tend not to do at times because it's always scary to actually trust somebody, whether it's from a financial standpoint or whether it's just trust in general. But at the same time, when we do trust individuals, we give them everything. Just like we are in a team concept, we're all for a team effort. So that's what we want to relinquish is that trust and giving it to somebody from a partnership standpoint, whether it's your friend, whether it's a family member, or whoever it comes across that sees that same vision that you want to actually take and handle after, they say athletes die twice after life of playing your sport and, thus far, prolonging what you're trying to build.
Right. I mean, trust is a big one. And like you
Yeah.
said, it's either we don't trust you or then you give it up too much when you do feel you can
Yeah.
trust somebody. What when obviously, I agree. It's a tough one when we talk about trust with athletes, but back to the point you made around the emotional part of dying, like how did you get through that? And is it something like I know everyone talks about it. I feel like it's something you can't really prepare anybody for because when you going through it, you kind of like, bro, this don't feel nice. It doesn't feel good. I know it's coming. Part of me still want to hold on, like, nah. I'm about to just give it back to all of basketball, and it's really hard. And it's like it's coming, but you can't really prepare yourself. But to say, all right, I'm gonna embrace it and get through it.
Yeah.
But like for you, what was it like? Did you have a time where you were depressed? Did you have a time where you had to get away? Like, how
Yeah.
did you get through it?
Most definitely. No, the transition for me, let's start all the way back. I was blessed, God given, to play 16 years as a professional athlete at a high level, which is unfortunate because some individuals aren't capable of doing that, whether it's injuries or whatever comes to the point where they have to retire at an early age. So those things are devastating, let alone. But for me, from the 16 years, I've seen that uphill building and all the way to that peak and getting down to that downhill where I seen where I was almost pushing on those brakes, like, oh, I'm not ready to go right now, and the body was talking to me, my mind, I was running out of mind games to play, prepare for myself. I always felt that it wasn't the games that was hard. It was just the practices and getting up every single day, the preparing myself from, how strenuous it is for us as athletes in the summertime. You know, how we actually have to prepare ourselves to get back into game shape and taking on those injuries that we had from the last year and bringing it to this year and healing those wounds, you know. And from the 16 years that I've had, knock on wood, I wasn't injured, but at the same time, my body was talking to me and my mind was really in other opportunities and doing other things outside of just basketball. And I felt that basketball wasn't my plan A anymore. You know, it was almost getting to my plan B. And it was one of those things where I had to be real with myself. You know, I felt that even now I could still play at 40 years old, but at the same time, it doesn't matter. And I had an older brother who pretty much, you know, taught me pretty much like how to actually transition of getting rid of that ego, you know. And one of the things he said was like, man, hard truth, you my brother, I love you, but nobody cares. You know, if you play till you're 40, 42 years old, it doesn't matter. Eventually you're going to have to stop. So the hardest thing for any individual is to have a starting point of starting over, you know, and finding that identity. So that's one of the things that was scary to me, is finding another identity outside of me playing a sport that I love, that I grew up playing at the age of 5, pretty much all I knew, and how it opened doors for me. Now having my work ethic out the window and putting it into something else, it was something like, am I going to be able to actually wake up and do the things and have the love for something else other than basketball?
Right. Do you think when it was time to move on, what were some of the things that surprised you that didn't follow you? And when I talk about that, it's kind of like you leave you're in the game, you got the clout, people like hitting you up probably in your
Yeah.
DMs, you know, everybody know your name. Does that clout transition to business and what you doing next? Or is it like crickets now, as soon as you retire? What's that like?
No, I'll be honest with you. It's crickets. Can't say nothing else. It's crickets. You know,
Hmm.
from the individuals I played with, to the individuals I played against, to the brotherhood that we had in the locker rooms, where you thought individuals were your teammates, your real core teammate. Those come out, you know, and the real ones, and there are real ones that I had and built a bond with. You know, I've won championships with, and I've talked to individuals even to the day. I can pick up the phone and they're there, you know, and to individuals who I thought had not just my best interest, but that was just, you know, my guy, is crickets, you know. So
Hmm.
those conversations that you had that you think that are, you know, your circle that we always build, those get smaller and smaller. You know, the real truth of understanding what you have comes when you actually transition into something, whether it's anything, you know. And the fans, you know, millions of fans screaming your name. Nobody's screaming my name, you
Hmm.
know. There's some vital core individuals that remember me as who I was, but that's no longer me now, you know. So that transition of understanding, of reminiscing, yeah, you can go back to that, but you got to wake up into reality of building something different of what you're trying to do, and that's a whole new identity, you know. So those crickets, you use those as fire. You know, you use those as weapons of how to actually build. And like we play basketball, you know, I think that tenacity of showing people what you are capable
Hmm.
of, that holds weight. You know, how you actually have that drive to actually getting through those games and pushing forward. You know, those naysayers. So you use those as fire more than anything, for sure.
Got you. When did you know you would get into like the entrepreneurship investment space? I know you say you had some
Mhm.
people that came before you, so of course you had someone to kind of at least help you and guide you into the spaces that
Yeah,
you're currently in. Um,
yeah.
did you always plan to be entrepreneur? You know, you have an investment fund. We'll talk about that. How did how
Mhm.
did how did you get into that space, and what did that look like for you to slowly transition into the role that you have now?
Not it actually helped for me, because I had a nonprofit 501c, three, established in 2008. You know, and I had some individuals, my brother, a good friend of mine. Philip Scott, who is actually in charge of it right now. Um, we actually built that as a community to actually build something where I can actually come back to educate individuals, have, schooling on how to actually level up from a basketball standpoint, given my expertise and me preparing myself into a coaching setting in the summertime, as well as just teaching and educating individuals from our community about the sport of basketball, and it's grown thus far from a premier standpoint of getting in contact with the city of Downey, California, and having a partnership with them, of them seeing the value of what we bring to the table. So from 2008 all the way up until this point, it's been established and been growing, and it's really been remarkable. But that's been me hands off. I haven't been in the space only in the summertime to be fully involved into it, and now 3 years later, 3 years prior to this, we established a prep school as well in Downey, California as well too. So those things have really been a huge standpoint as far as giving back from a collegiate standpoint of individuals trying to get to, professional level, getting to college, as well as just learning the sport as a whole. So those transitions has really been remarkable, helping me gear myself into entrepreneurship. To be honest with you, Jay, I've never had a 9 to 5 of understanding how that actually works. So me being an entrepreneur, I always believe that athletes are entrepreneur in themselves as well, because we're showcasing our talent, we're publicizing who we are, and we're marketable. So we're bringing that out as a team setting, but as an individual as well too. So the entrepreneurship has definitely been instilled of just showcasing my talent. But now, so for transition to a business side, it's really been enlightening for me to understand what is a niche, what is a need. And me sitting out for 4 years and then retired, I really felt of me telling my story out loud and bringing out to individuals. I'm really seeing what is missing from an individual standpoint of an athlete. So those are the things that I really want to tackle for sure.
How has it been? You have your fund, Elite Capital, and you're obviously targeting athletes. Again, going back to you being an athlete, the cloud of you played 16 years pro, you've played for some big clubs on your resume. When it
Yeah.
pertains to other funds that are led by non-athletes out here in the space, who haven't done what you've done, who haven't gone through it, etc., who probably also don't understand that trust of like, hey, we all know as athletes, people are looking to use your likeness and use the collective of athletes to go and you get what they want out of the business. For
Yeah.
me, it's always like, why not give that to somebody who literally is on the same like trajectory as you? Like,
Yeah.
why give that likeness and power and all of that to somebody who hasn't been through it, who's been able to network and do all these things while you've been playing? It
That
doesn't make
grind.
sense. Why not
Yeah.
invest back into the athlete, so at least it's setting a standard for when you're gonna be right there?
Yeah.
How has it been with trying
Yeah.
to get athletes to be a part of your fund compared to, truthfully, the other competitors out there who have investment funds that aren't really backed or not really ran by former athletes?
Yeah.
Is there any loyalty?
Yeah. No, I think that. No, I think it's the sweet spot of understanding um, your network, understanding your market, understanding who you're trying to target, your clientele from an inside perspective of knowing how hard it is to actually make your coin. That grind of sweat equity, of being assertive, of through tough times of playing to injuries, through all those adversity of listening to coaches that don't know what they're talking about, going through that from an every single day standpoint, and trying to provide for your family thus far. If you have a family or a legacy that you're trying to build, those things are never something that I don't take for granted because I'm there too as well. So the trust is definitely there, and the honesty, which is the transparency. I don't want. I've been in a team setting for so long of understanding how to actually build with the team that I'm open to it. I'm not from an individual standpoint of just trying to be just bringing in clients of whoever they are and just trying to get capital. I really want this to work and thrive because I know this has a legacy providing for individuals and their family thus far, and I know what it can actually do from that standpoint as well too, for sure. It's really remarkable to see what is the niche and what's needed from athletes of being not liquid, in a sense of having so many opportunities thrown at you and you want to tap into those endeavors, but you really are not liquid to understanding how to actually allocate funds and diversify, which is something that I wanted to bring to the table. Liquidity from our investment fund, for sure. Giving back from a rewarding standpoint, from a monthly basis. We're visual learners as athletes, and we're getting paid from a monthly standpoint. So if I can show you returns that's actually generating from that point, you're more susceptible of understanding exactly what it is that we have inside this investment fund, for sure.
Gotcha. And like talk a little bit about the main focus of where your fund is kind of looking to allocate their funds as a collective. What type of investments you all looking to help athletes make through the fund?
No, for sure. I appreciate it. From a diversified standpoint, we're into three entities as far as what we have, three vehicles that are recession proof. And no matter if the market is going up or down, we're able to capitalize from that standpoint and grow high returns for our clientele, which is really remarkable, especially in a day and age like this where you're not able to actually tap into a lot of things that's giving passive income for clientels, and a lot of things from a venture capitalist or a PE standpoint. You don't know exactly when the exit is. So to actually diversify into putting putting investment into something, you want your money to actually grow. You need your money ASAP. So we're actually bringing that back to the table and getting that assertive, for sure. But to tackle the first question you asked, it's for athletes such as ourselves, entrepreneurs, entertainers, accredited investors. I'm really geared towards helping athletes in a sense because I know that standpoint of us having that short window of potential, which we are in that 1% category, is easily a blur. For me playing 16 years, I can honestly remember 4 years of playing. After that, you got the rest of your life to actually live, to figure out what you want to do. And there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be L's and lesson learned. But to have capital to actually bounce back from is something we want to provide for our inside of our investment fund, for sure.
Got it. Do you think there's been advantages, just to point out and retract a little bit? You're living abroad. You are one of the Americans. I think the guys is a little easier for y'all to find somebody abroad through this lifestyle of overseas. For the women, is a little harder, and also depending on what you like, it gets a little hard out here. But it seems, the guys, you see more guys that found someone and they stayed, whether it be Germany, a couple in Poland, couple, of course, Italy, Spain. How has that also, you think, elevated who you are as a whole person holistically compared to, let's say, some of the guys that only play NBA? Do you see the differentiator of who you are, not only as a man, entrepreneur, but just in general, how you've grown? How has that impacted you being an international overseas athlete compared to if you only would have had to stay in the league, in the NBA, of course, the main league?
Man, that's a good question. That I don't know, to be honest with you. Just having a little taste of it, it is um, it's really in a spot where you get overwhelmed a lot, and the simple life of me just being able to wake up, take my kids to school, pick them up from school. Those are the pride and joys that I love. Making sure they're secure, knowing that they're secure in a setting where it's family oriented. Um, just seeing, a different side of life where it's appreciative of really understanding what you have, and that's the joy of family. I've been blessed to actually have my mom and dad all the way up until together at a point where I seen a lot of my friends and family didn't have that, and those things are shaky territories when you're actually raising a kid, So I was blessed to have that. I want to give that to my kids, and there's no tackle of being in the U.S. It's definitely something where it could have been happening for sure. But just seeing the way of life out here, and I really feel that I've grown up out here more so than back in the U.S. because the light side of me being here for 16 years is seeing so much from a standpoint of um, the culture of different culture, different ethnicity, different way of living. It's really opened my eyes for sure, and this is one of those things where I was blessed to actually meet my wife here in Italy and have two beautiful daughters for sure, and then grow something that's really remarkable from, their family and bringing it all together for sure as a whole.
Yeah, no, I think of course, the lifestyle when we talk America compared to certain European countries is completely different. The pace is different, and like you said, the values
Yeah.
they value family time. Like they value going to have their coffee in the morning and don't bother me. Um,
You
let
know
me
it.
sit here and have my coffee, and if I want to have a 2 hour coffee
Yeah.
date, I'm
12
gonna have a
o'clock
two
is
hour coffee
lunch,
date.
6 o'clock is dinner. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So it's definitely different what they value. But throughout the time of course playing overseas and again going back to the fund, how has it been um reconnecting back to the community of athletes? You're no longer playing. I think part of the clout of
Mhm.
what I'm realizing is, some players also like fans. Like they follow the clout
Mhm.
too. Like
They
I
thrive.
see people watching my story and follow me now that I'm with Asheville, like, yo, I know you, but now you checking for me more. Like, why? It's like, they following the clout as well. So my question is, now that you are retired, you're no longer like
Mhm.
on the socials, not on no one sees that you're hooping or with certain clubs. How has
Yeah.
it been
Yeah.
to tap back into the community, which is something we hear a
Yeah.
lot? But what's the realities of really getting people to pick up the phone or really getting, people to be receptive when it pertains to athletes in the community? How has it been to really
Yeah.
reconnect with everybody?
No, it's been a mixture. It really has for sure. As an athlete, people know you as an athlete. They know you as a jersey with a name on the back of it. They know that you are a competitive individual. They see that side in you for sure. They don't know you as a person. So to bring that different light, it's a mixture for sure. I have a mixed crowd of um, friends and family that actually are, susceptible of that trust factor. Is he able to actually do what he says? And it comes with first sitting down and having a game plan of what you're trying to tackle and then bringing in fruition of what you're trying to do with the team that you're trying to bring together, and having that same drive like we talked about before, but more so having that security for individuals to see that you're taking this serious.
Mm-hmm.
And that change in light for sure is a drive that, most athletes tend to actually thrive on, that change of pace. So, Um, it's one of those things where you have to be have thick skin. No matter what individuals say or what they see inside of you or what they saw before, you know what your why is. You know what your drive is. You know what your calling really is. And you're going to fight for it no matter what. For me, being an athlete since I was the age of 5 to 24, seeing my first paycheck of something that I believed in all the way to that point. And I've had individuals as friends that had that same line of goal, and they went left, they went right.
Mm-hmm.
But me sticking to that point of trying to be the best athlete is that drive that I have now. So whatever it is that you're trying to do, make sure that why is strong, because there's going to be different storms of weather that's going to knock you off your path. But more so than anything, you know what you're doing and what you're trying to do. I always had a story where, for instance, phones, Apple is not for everybody. Everybody doesn't have an iPhone. Everybody doesn't have a Samsung, but they're actually selling those, to
Right.
individuals that need that. So your cause is not for everybody. So just keep that in mind and understand what your cause is for. So if you're going through 100 individuals and they say no, somebody's going to see that light and see that as an example, and then it's going to make it even more sweeter when individuals see that they're coming into your circle of what you're trying to bring to the table for sure.
Right.
So getting to
I
that
mean,
point is hard
again,
though. It definitely is.
yeah. Taking a no, I think that goes back to the athletes that really appreciate being the underdog, their journey being the journey of an underdog compared to the one that maybe
Yeah.
was always winning. No one ever told you no.
Yeah.
No one ever told you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly sometimes when you're the best,
Mm-hmm.
because the coach can't tell you something because they scared you might leave. Have you seen this? Like for real, throughout transitioning, seeing dudes that were, obviously rightfully so, you were that dude. So you were one of those top
Yeah.
guys throughout your career.
Yeah.
Have you seen, like, what's the reality of the person that was always the best,
Yeah.
always got the clout, compared to that underdog 6-man, maybe bench guy? Maybe there
Yeah.
was some that was still made their way to that starting five, but before that, they had to go through the trenches.
Yeah.
Now, life after, they're a little bit more used to someone saying no, or nah, that's not going to work. So they continue along their journey, whatever that might be that they're doing after. Have
Yeah.
you seen that differentiator in athletes, and should athletes be aware that, let me sit down and
Mm-hmm.
really look at how people have engaged with me throughout my career, and what's going to be the reality when I'm
Yeah.
done playing and I no longer am a player?
Yeah. That's a good question. It really determines as far as how long you want to play. For me, from a standpoint of me being a guy that was trying to beat the man that's up here and getting to that point of having individuals believe in me, of having that leadership and role, then to that point of being the man and trying to stay at that point, and seeing, guys that's trying to tackle, even from the inside, from your team, guys that's trying to be the man and try to beat you, all the way to the point of that downhill slope where you see, and you're not the alpha dog, but there's other young individuals that are capable of doing that, and you're now in a position where you have to mentor them. Um, those are roles that you got to play, and you got to know, just like every season is broken down where it's required for you to do different things. Sometimes you got to lead with your voice. Sometimes you got to lead with your actions. Sometimes you have to be the best scorer. Sometimes you got to be the best defender. Sometimes it's like you got to be a coach and a player. Each season is different, just like each year is different. So you got to be able to understand those things a lot faster. As you get older, you understand those things. I was blessed to have some juggernauts in the game as far as Chauncey Billups, Rasheed, Tayshaun Prince, to mold me into those categories, and me and seeing them in those lights of embracing those roles are huge, And I had a conversation with an individual that was my mentor, my OG, and he said there's 3 things that you can do as far as accepting your role, embracing your role, or rejecting your role. You have those characters where you can actually tackle. Those choices are up to you. So if you're able to accept that role and do what you're able to do, it's going to put you, at a cap where you're not embracing it. If you're able to embrace that role, you're seeing there's no ceiling of what you can do inside of your role.
Mm-hmm.
But if you reject it, you have no clue of what capable things that you're able to do, with the team and how you actually prolong to grow in that space, So those things that you got to do, it's within, and to tackle to the first question, that ego is huge for athletes. It's really huge because we know once you get to that professional level, everybody was that dog to get to that point, to get to that 1%. And now you have to play a role of not being that dog, but being that dog in your own setting when it's time to be called, So it comes and goes, and to varies for sure, but
Right.
just being aware of that, it helps a lot for sure.
Got you. And off the court, once you were that dog, you were that man, whatever, on the court,
Mm-hmm.
do you think as we transition out, because I've seen it, I've seen it that that people, when I or Julie, my co-founder, who follow up on things that we're trying to do, they see that we actually have the app in Apple. They like, oh, it's almost the stigma that they're used to athletes talking, but then on top of that, we still hooping.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
still, and rightfully so, playing at the higher levels of women's basketball. And so do you think it's something where, truthfully, for athletes, despite everything in the media saying, oh, athletes are great entrepreneurs, the transition, you have all these skills, is there still a stigma that people really don't really believe in us being entrepreneurs, that we have a lot more to prove as we transition? Like, have you seen that as an athlete going into entrepreneurship or whatever you might be doing, you really have a lot more to prove to people because they don't think you know how to manage your time. They don't think you really know what the real world is, or you're not ready to put in this type of work. You put in physical work, yes, but now can you put in the work for business? Do you think it's something that we have a little bit of a negative actually when we leave to prove ourselves?
Yeah, I think we put that on ourselves, not understanding the 24-hour clock in a day of what we have, we can talk, about this. You understand what I'm saying? We go to practice probably 2 hours out of the day. We have the rest of the day to do whatever we want, So out of those 2 hours, maybe if we have 2 practices a day, I highly doubt it. If you're in Serbia, maybe, or Russia, but out of those 2 hours out of the day, you have pretty much the whole day to educate yourself on things that are occurring, tapping into a new identity of who you are and not just being an athlete. And we bury ourselves sometimes of just trying to have that tunnel vision of being the best athlete, where there's times where we need to understand that comes natural. It's not taken away from it. You can still get an hour in after practice and get extra shots, or come in early to get extra shots. But at that same space, there's so much time of potential to learn a new language, to walk around and see different cultures, to embrace what you're having, which is doors and opportunities open, and having conversations and opening it up to individuals that may not understand you, but don't know you because you're not opening and being appreciative of that as well too. Asking questions, I think that athletes have a hard time of doing that. We're able to figure things out at a fast pace, but we know if you're not an athlete or anybody from that individual standpoint, if you're able to ask questions, you get through a lot of things faster. You don't bump your head a lot as well too. So asking questions are huge, and really finding a mentor to actually be able to bump ideas off of. We're in a space of social media, which is huge, where I'm connecting to you all the way through France. I'm in Italy right now, and we're vibing and having a conversation. And you're telling me about your idea as well as me telling you about your idea. Those things are huge, and having a network that can actually catapult your ideas to a whole nother level where it's not so much you doing 100% of the labor, but you're allocating that time to individuals that, you can trust and actually build from that point, so utilizing those weapons that we have are huge, especially in a time right now where everything is categorized for us athletes to thrive. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
wants to be in our space, in our circle of connecting with us. So we got to be more open and understanding of that and taking that as a huge standpoint where we can actually categorize ourselves into diversifying, not just being that stigma of only an athlete, for sure.
Right. So as we wrap up, I just wanted to always close it out asking, just what has been on your heart for as you've gone through the
Mm-hmm.
whole journey and now you're going through the life after journey, which is going to be the longest one throughout the
Yeah.
career. Um, what are some of the things when you just sit, maybe you watching a young dude on EuroLeague or you watching games and those
Yeah.
thoughts are like, man, if he only knew this or she only knew this, what are some of the things you kind of, what are you pondering on? Like, if I knew this, if I knew that, or,
Yeah.
the what
Yeah.
if things that someone you would love to just
Mm-hmm.
get a nugget in their ear. What are some of the things that's been on your mind recently, just around the sport industry and how athletes are tied to the sport industry? What's something that you've recently thought about, just that you would
Yeah.
want to just
Nah,
kind
I
of
mean,
express to the world?
for me personally, is adding value for sure. I always wanted to always add value. I know how pressed for time we are and how much time we have um, to add value to something, which is um, let's talk about it from an athlete standpoint, is huge. To actually have them move into another bracket from a financial standpoint, having security from a financial standpoint, having longevity after basketball is huge. Having not to live from a check to check standpoint is huge. Um, having more doors open is huge. So I'm really big on just not so much reminiscing. 16 years is a long time. I think I did it my way for sure, and I'm really blessed with that. Playing basketball, aside from talking to individuals and having an ear for them, I'm really big on that for sure. I had OGs that actually gave me the game, and it's only right to actually give it back. From a 16-year standpoint, even from a young kid standpoint of not being a professional, I have a lot of wisdom to give, whether it's on the court or as well as off the court. So I want to pour it out to individuals and just let them know that there are individuals that want to see you thrive. Whether it's being the best athlete, being the best father or mother, or trying to get things that you want to get done. There's individuals that's really out in this world that help you and want to actually make sure that you are comfortable, safe, secure, and bringing it to fruition. So that's one of the things that I want to bring to the table for sure.
Got you. Well, definitely appreciate it, Alex. I'll
Mm-hmm.
be
Appreciate you.
keeping it. We'll keep in touch with you. Obviously, as you know, we got our platform we're launching. Definitely, hopefully,
Definitely.
you'll be a retired pro uh, on there engaging with us, but also letting players know about the fund who want to get involved.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can make that step as well. But definitely, always good, inspiring to see another athlete doing it, transitioning,
Mm-hmm.
surviving the transition in their own right. And so appreciate you for just being you and taking that step, because again, we need more people to go before us to give us that courage to do it and to keep growing. And that's how it starts. So in the era of Web3 and athlete entrepreneurship and being more than, it does require different people to do things. So someone has a visual, so another woman or young girl has a visual to say, I could go overseas and not be in the main WNBA market and still end up an entrepreneur or still be able to leverage that experience. So as always, just love to say thank you for just taking those steps and figuring it out and continuing to figure it out.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, for helping me, catapult what we're trying to do on your platform as well too. And yeah, I'm a sponge. You need anything, we'll be in contact for sure, and moving forward to helping each other build, from that point.